In the last video, we covered the proliferation of smaller parties competing in the elections. This video will focus on the parties of the middle. 30 years ago, Dutch politics revolved strongly around the big three, the PvdA, the VVD and the CDA, or the Labour Party, the Conservative Liberal Party and the Christian Democratic Party. As is typical of this current age of politics, the situation is now markedly different. The first major change came in July of 2002 when Pim Fortuyn List, 10 days after the assassination of its party leader, became part of the coalition government. Not only was this a boon for the populist right, but also the left, as the Socialist Party, a then left-wing populist outfit, although this has subsequently been toned down, also gained an unprecedented 9 seats. This can be seen as a bit of a flash in the pan. Pim Fortuyn List was a deeply unqualified, disorganised and divided party, even more so without its leader, and the government was dissolved the following year. Even so, this wasn't business as usual. Formerly the PvdA, the VVD and the CDA could expect to get around 80% of the votes between them. This has since been in steady decline, and this year it seems they'd be lucky to obtain half of that. Now party competition can be seen as a kind of pyramid. We have the VVD and PVV at the top, who will likely obtain 30% of the vote between them. Then below them we have the mid-sized parties, the PvdA, the SP, the CDA, the Green Party and D66, who together seem set to take around 50%. Finally, we have the smaller parties, the SGP or the Reformed Party, 50+, the PVDD, DENK, Forum for Democracy, for the Netherlands, etc., who will fill in the remaining 20%. An illustration of this fractured political landscape can be found in the premiere debate that aired on the 26th of February. Normally this debate contains 4 participants from the 4 largest parties in the polls, and this was the agreement participants signed up for. However, as the debate neared, it became clear that there weren't clear-cut contenders for the 3rd and 4th positions. As a result, RTL News changed the format to include 5 parties. Now, both the VVD and the PVV thought this unfair because it broke the terms of their agreement and they subsequently pulled out of the debate. The debate thus featured the 5 parties of the centre. According to polls, Alexander Pechtold of D66 won the debate by a narrow margin, followed closely by Jesse Klaver of Green Left. Regardless of who did well or who did badly, the debate took on a conciliatory tone, with parties open to the idea of working together. As Lodewijk Asscher of the Labour Party said, "I'm looking for connection. The Netherlands does not want politicians telling each other what they've done wrong." All parties have ruled out working with the PVV, and all broadly agree that the VVD should be ousted from government, although only the Socialist Party have abjectly rejected working with them should the need arise. In terms of immigration, Islam and refugees, the CDA is presenting itself as a calm and reasoned option for those otherwise put off by the style of the VVD and PVV. The Democrat 66, the Socialist Party and the Green Left all favour foreign policy amendments to aid with the migrant crisis, while the Labour Party exhibited an uncharacteristically tough approach, stating a country can only take so much. The result of this debate in terms of voter opinion seems to have been negligent. That's neither of significance nor importance though. The significance is in their willingness to cooperate with one another. Together they could likely form a parliamentary majority and thus form a 5-party coalition, and this is excluding even the VVD. Only the Socialist Party seems to have excluded the possibility of working with the VVD, so a 4-party government with the VVD in hand is also highly likely. Together these 5 parties decide the election, and every single one of them has explicitly, without nuance, without ums and ahs, refused to work with Wilders, under any circumstances. The strategic preference of these parties is primarily office-seeking, building alliances with other parties and finding common ground for emphasis rather than differences. Wilders, on the other hand, is isolating himself more and more. As it currently stands, he is losing votes and is now second or equal in the polls to the VVD. Not only did Wilders reject participation in this debate, but also has done for the next debate scheduled for the 5th of March. In typical populist bluster, he labelled broadcaster RTL scum, which could likely be in response to RTL interviewing Geert's brother, Paul Wilders, who spoke out against Wilders, claiming he rules his party like an emperor. Paul Wilders has since claimed he has been experiencing death threats. Death threats are something Wilders has faced also. An apparent breach in his security resulted in him cancelling all public showings until more information became known. There were concerns that one of his security team were leaking information to Moroccan gangs. As of the 2nd of March, Wilders has resumed public appearances. When it comes to the smaller parties covered previously, 50 Plus has had a disastrous week and now seems likely to win around half the seats it was originally predicted to. So about 5 if it's lucky. This is significant as they were one of the few parties that said that they would work with Wilders. Forum for Democracy could win a couple, Denk could also, the Party for the Animals will likely win 5 or so. None of this is enough to rehabilitate the PVV's chances. And that assumes that they'd all work with him in the first place, and the truth is they certainly wouldn't. So how will this all play out? Well, I can say with near certainty that Wilders will be excluded from government. To put it very bluntly, no party actually needs him. Wilders, even if the PVV does finish as the largest party, isn't in a position of particular power, as he successfully managed to isolate himself from every other party of remote significance. As for worry that his governmental exclusion could result in unrest, well, the PVV may end up the largest party, but that isn't close to a majority in absolute votes. Let's assume the PVV obtains 28 seats, which at this point is generous. That amounts to just under 20% of votes. I said this in my last video, but there is a historical precedent for exclusion here. In the 1982 elections, the Labour Party finished first, obtaining a whopping 47 seats. Almost double what Wilders is forecast to get, but were still excluded from government by a CDA and VVD coalition. It's important and sobering to remember that this is not like a referendum or presidential elections in America or elections in the UK. Wilders knows the rules of elections and has been in politics all his life. He is perfectly aware he has no coalition prospects, and thus knows, regardless of how successful he is, governmental participation is most likely unfeasible. He was given the opportunity to be in a support role in 2011, but then withdrew and collapsed the government a year later, burning bridges with possible centre-right allies in the process. This is a good website which lists all possible coalition formations based on who parties have said they would work with, and the daily polling updates published. You'll notice that Wilders isn't listed anywhere, and that is likely to remain the case. Of course, there is a chance, a very slim chance, that someone will backtrack and change their minds, but why would they? As stated, no one needs to. By all parties refusing to cooperate with Wilders, all parties are more or less guaranteeing themselves a place in government, as most will be necessary to form a majority whichever way the cookie crumbles. All ideological posturing aside, this is an unavoidable fact and it cannot be understated. I've stated this before in my video profiling Wilders. Wilders is atypical in that we tend to see moderation the closer a party gets to office. However, Wilders has done the opposite. Maybe my initial analysis has been incorrect in that, oddly enough, it seems the more support Wilders ascertains in terms of votes, the further he moves from political feasibility. This isn't so much to do with what Wilders says or what his policies are. Sure, he has come out with some pretty radical stuff, but that didn't stop the VVD and CDA from bringing him to the negotiation table in 2011. His problem is the way he treats his political peers and the establishment framework. Wilders can refuse to participate in debates, can collapse government, can call people scum, but cannot do this while cozying up to others in a coalition. It's kind of a case of cutting off your nose despite your face. Wilders has certainly reformulated political debate in the Netherlands and put an emphasis on issues of Islam, migration and the EU. Mark Rutte, the incumbent Prime Minister, launched a campaign strongly mirroring Wilders in January, warning migrants to be normal or be gone. And as already mentioned, even Labour has toughened its immigration stance a tad in the recent debate. But again, and I can't stress this strongly enough, due to Wilders distancing himself so strongly from the establishment, no other party is hostage to the prospect of coalition with him. Thus, we can justly expect none to consider it. We have less than 2 weeks to go. I'll keep you updated. Thanks for watching this video. If you like what you see, please click like and why not subscribe. Massive thank you to all my patrons and please do consider donating if it's within your means to do so. I really appreciate it. As always, thanks a lot for the support and until next time.